am proud to be joined by Senators Stabenow, Whitehouse, and Wyden. Now, for weeks, we've been asking the House Republicans to come up with a credible plan to avoid default. Instead, Speaker McCarthy rolled out a wish list straight out of the Freedom Caucus playbook. It's a bill that might as well be called the Default on America Act, because that's exactly what it is. DOA, dead on arrival. That's right. Republicans released an extremist hard-right agenda written in a back room in secret to win the support of the Freedom Caucus. The GOP's Default on America Act does not bring us any closer to avoiding a first-ever default. In fact, it only brings us dangerously closer to default. Republicans' Default on America Act would mean fewer jobs, higher costs, leaving policemen, first responders, Border Patrol, our vets, hanging out to dry. For those who worry about gun violence and crime and keeping our communities safe, the Default on America Act wipes out nearly 30,000 law enforcement officers, while also gutting critical resources to secure the border. Donald Trump told House Republicans to defund law enforcement, and so the Republican Default on America Act does just that. If you're a small business owner, the DOA will raise your taxes. As even one GOP member admitted about the Republican bill, quote, essentially you're increasing taxes. You're increasing taxes, not on the wealthy, no, but on families, small businesses, American manufacturers. That's what DOA does. It would raise taxes and it would cut jobs. It would also eliminate close to 1 million jobs, over 800,000 according to Moody's. If you're a parent struggling to pay child care, the Default on America Act eliminates 105,000 child care slots across the country. The bill would worsen the opioid epidemic by cutting critical HHS programs over $10 billion over the next decade. That's a definition of cruelty. And if you want to go to college, the Republican package will slash Pell Grants for all students by $1,000 and even eliminate Pell Grants entirely for too many students. It's clear House Republicans are hell-bent on default one way or another, either a default on the debt or a default on everything else, on our future, our children, our promise to care for our kids and veterans and law enforcement. And what just happened a few hours ago in the wee hours of the morning? Speaker McCarthy capitulated to the hard right once again. If anything, the revised bill is even more extreme, more radical, more damaging to the economy, and a meaner version of Default on America Act. It brings us no closer to avoiding default on the national debt and is even less popular with Americans. Let me be clear. Democrats cannot and will not, for the sake of America and its families, allow Republicans' DOA Act to ever become law. Discussion of spending cuts belongs in talks about the budget, not for bargaining chips on the debt ceiling. The Speaker should drop the brinksmanship, drop the hostage-taking, come to the table with Democrats to pass a clean bill to avoid default. Time is running out. Senator Stabenow.
Thank you very much, Senator Schumer. And as Senator Schumer indicated, Republicans are saying they're willing to have our country default. I mean, that's what they're saying, unless they get what they want, and now we know what they want. Their Default on America Act makes it clear, as Senator Schumer described, in so many ways, they're willing to hurt veterans and children and families and gut our border security, and they are clearly protecting big oil by putting their profits, big oil's profits, above the creation of hundreds of thousands of good-paying new clean energy jobs. And while they're protecting big oil and the huge Trump tax cuts that they continue to not want to eliminate, they want to take food away from families. 80% of the people on SNAP our seniors, families with children, people with disabilities, and veterans. The average SNAP benefit is $6.10 a day. Go to the grocery store, take a look around. $6.10 a day per person. For mom, $6.10 for her son, $6.10 for her daughter a day in order to feed them. And the majority of people are able to work are working right now. The majority of people on SNAP who are able to work are working. Work requirements have been in the law since 1977. The time limits were added for adults without children in 1996 as part of President Clinton's welfare reform. So again, Republicans want to get rid of good-paying, clean energy jobs, protect the big tax cuts to their wealthy buddies, and at the same time, they want to make it harder for people to get a little bit of help feeding their families in hard times. It's cruel, it's short-sighted, and it's not going to happen. It is dead on arrival. Democrats are standing with American families. Oh, Senator Wyden.
Thank you very much, Leader. And I'm just going to focus briefly on three of the points that are in front of us in the Senate Finance Committee. First of all, Speaker McCarthy says America has two bad options: the pain of slashing programs families depend on, or the agony of default. What we're talking about is DOA, period, full stop. Second point deals with the climate picture in their proposal. And the fact is, in the Senate Finance Committee, my colleagues here, Senator Stabenow and Senator Whitehouse and I authored these provisions, and those provisions ignited a clean energy revolution in the country. Billions and billions in private investment, tens of thousands of jobs. A significant reduction of carbon emissions is on the way because for the first time in American history, we said the more you reduce carbon emissions, the bigger your tax savings. Repealing the IRA energy provisions is an enormous gift to big oil and to clean energy firms in China and Europe. They want nothing more than for energy and transportation in the United States to remain wedded, tethered to yesteryear. Clearly, that's what Republicans have been after in way, way too many areas of government. Last point I would like to bring up is the tax issue, because that clearly is the issue that defines them, and I would only say nothing unites Republicans more than helping wealthy tax cheats. They focus on that every day in and day out. That is their tax agenda. That's what drives them like no other issue. Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Senator Whitehouse. And Senator Wyden is chairing a meeting of the Finance Committee, so he has to go.
The MAGA wish list that Speaker McCarthy released last week is DOA. His default on America plan is dead on arrival. It is so damaging and so unpopular to the American people that MAGA Republicans are using secret backroom deals and default threats to jam through cuts that would never pass in public. But when it comes to protecting their wealthy fossil fuel donors, they spare no expense. Not only would this cost 780,000 jobs, it would also shrink the economy by $146 billion next year, with cuts up to 33% for border security, law enforcement, job training, affordable energy, opioid treatment, housing, food programs, and health insurance. For big donors, McCarthy's proposal would also slash IRS enforcement capacity to go after wealthy tax cheats, a move that would add nearly $120 billion to the deficit. The U.S. Constitution lays out transparent tools to raise revenue and determine government spending. It happens through bicameral legislating, through the budget and appropriations processes, not through hostage-taking and blackmail on behalf of fossil fuel mega donors. This default on America plan shows how captured the Republican Party is by the fossil fuel industry. Almost 280 pages of this 320-page bill are devoted to fossil fuel giveaways, resending the clean energy tax credits on which they are campaigning in their home districts, the projects that they support. Going back to leaking wasteful methane emissions without penalty, a permitting reform described especially for the fossil fuel industry, designed especially for the fossil fuel industry. And of course, obstacles to the agencies that protect clean air and clean water from fossil fuel polluters. They're proposing to roll back progress on the climate crisis, putting their fossil fuel overlords over hundreds of thousands of clean energy workers, including those in their very districts. The message is stark: polluters first, people second. This isn't about debt and deficits. It's not about limiting, saving, and growing. It's not about defunding woke government. It's about the big fossil fuel donors that keep them in power. In this case, the woke screen truly is a smoke screen, and the smoke is from all the extra oil and gas the fossil fuel industry would have us burn. DOA is dirty, and DOA is dead.
Thank you.
Leader Schumer, would you put a clean debt ceiling bill on the floor if they pass this bill in the House?
Look, the bottom line is simple. Our plan has always been the same: to avoid default, pass a clean debt ceiling, no brinksmanship, no hostage taking. Once that is done, there'll be plenty of time to discuss, as usual, in the budget process, where there should be cuts, where there should be tax increases, etc.
So is
Yes.
that a yes? Is that a yes?
Senator Manchin called for talks with the Democrats on focusing on the debt ceiling. Some House Democrats are calling for that already. If this passes and more Democrats start to come out and say, look, we got to get room to figure this out, what do you do?
Our caucus is unified, the president is unified, and his group is unified. Hakeem Jeffries and the Democratic House members are unified. Clean debt ceiling. Clean debt ceiling. That's how it's always been done. It was done 3 times, twice under Trump and once under Biden. To tie the two together is reckless and will lead to default. Yes.
Senator Manchin this week threatened to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. Are you comfortable with that kind of language from a member of your caucus?
Look, the bottom line is our caucus is overwhelmingly for the Inflation Reduction Act. Yes.
Do you have an update on Senator Feinstein and how much is perhaps hindering your goals, including on the court?
I spoke with Senator Feinstein recently, and both she and I hope that she will be back very soon. Yes.
Thank you. So the president has signed a measure to end the COVID national emergency. He's even said that the pandemic is over. What Senate Democrats at the very least be willing to take back unspent COVID funds in order to save it?
Look, the bottom line is the president did the right thing by setting I think it was a May 11th deadline. And the bottom line is very simple, and that is that any discussions like these types of things should occur in budget discussions, not as part of default. Tying the two, as we've always said, is reckless. We think what Speaker McCarthy and the House have done is going to bring us closer to default, not further away from it. Last one.
Republicans say that Tommy Tuberville just wants a vote on DOD abortion policy, and then he'll lift his hold on these 184 military promotions. Why not just give him a vote?
Well, what Tommy Tuberville is doing is reckless, holding up the lives and the progress of men and women who have served in our military for a very, very long time. This is unique what he is doing. If he does it and then everyone else does it, it's going to lead to total chaos with the military and damage our national security, and we won't stand for it. Thank you, everybody.
Bill, social media.